Okay, John Miglosh for the Wisconsin DMA and the International Society for Strategic Marketing. Well, we're up in the land of the great white north. Minnesota set a snow record for February all time, going back to 1962 previously. And now we're setting record cold for March. Why do we come? I don't know. Anyway, and I don't have my excellently bent glasses, so you have to bear with me on that one. But let's dig right into it, and we're going to talk a little more about AI, and I'm excited about it. Okay, so this article is from Target Marketing Magazine, and it basically and I like this approach. Okay, I have to say that they start with artificial AI intelligence is also growing, and along with e-commerce, and becoming more common in the business world. They don't say it's going to take over the world. They don't say that it's the solution to all our wildest dreams. Now, if you watched two days ago, I did one from Dr. Data, who's been writing back and forth, but he's on a world tour, and I have to apologize for saying that I've built more models than he has. I have no idea how many models he's built. My guess is we both built a lot of models. Anyway, but he's very gracious in saying, I should probably cut that out, which I did. And on the archives are on YouTube, so you can see the cleaned up versions of all the talks. Okay, so more intelligent platforms lead to higher conversions. Now, this is a really great example of how we form our opinions on the news. In a recent Salesforce, and what they mean by Salesforce.com, Salesforce reported that businesses that used AI to provide personalized recommendations to their customers reported 24% more conversions and 26% higher revenues. We should read that again, but I don't have time. So, is this a split test? Is this direct marketing? Did we say, okay, let's compare a generalized offer? I remember calling into Cabela's once, and they said, would you like to hear the weekly specials? And it was a crankbait special, and it was a great deal. Like 4 crankbaits for $10 or something, and normally they're about $5 a piece. So it was or more. So it was a really great deal. And I personally lean toward a really great deal over an attempt at personalization, because I think that's about as far as you can go. I just bought some beautiful whiskey glasses, and from a regular catalog company, and they sent me a follow-up email asking if I would be interested, or suggesting that I should be interested in a bug vacuum, and I actually wrote to them and said, what possible connection could there be? If we remember, the original Amazon AI was not AI. It was people who bought this book also bought, and then they would fill it in with something. And there was no attempt to make it rational or predict what you'll do. All it was a reporting of people who bought this book also bought these other books. And they would fill in the first 4 books or 5 books that came up with that particular book, and that would be it. They leave it there. And it was very simple, and it worked respectively. So the question is, what is this saying? Is this saying that companies who dabble around with AI do other things well, which gives them a higher percentage conversion rate? Or are they saying that these personalized recommendations are so much better than their general recommendations? Or perhaps they're saying people who give recommendations are doing better than people who don't, which I would guess would also be true. So there's so many ways this can be interpreted, and I think it's really bunk. As usual, most AI is bunk. The next one is all AI lead more data-driven business decisions. Yes, that's true. If you don't use data for decision making, then AI decisions will be data-driven. Another tautology. I wonder sometimes if they read these articles before they publish them. Anyway, this one I have a lot more trouble with. Data is the key to decision making. I'm not sure that's true. I mean, I suppose it could be true. it's hard to say. What do you mean by data? Do you mean the kind of stuff that we get off Twitter? Or do you mean, knowing what your income is and your budget is? Data could mean anything here. And analytical reports have been able to show businesses what's worked in the past, yes. And all data is the past. All we get is what's the past. All AI is based on data in the past. Predictive, I showed you some under-the-cover looks at predictive analytics, which I helped pioneer, and it's still based on data in the past. So we'll just skip on. Okay, then I went to this article, which I thought was interesting. I've been meaning to get to this a bit. This, again, is a good start. The impact of AI is an ongoing and ever-growing global debate. That's a fair thing. And then he gives some actual illustrations of what he thinks is AI. I'm not 100% sure, since Dr. Data says basically AI is a marketing term. But he says, Google Maps uses machine learning to provide real-time travel information. I think actually what it does is aggregate. It keeps an eye on the individual cars and how fast they're going. So I'm not sure that counts as AI. I'm pretty sure it doesn't, but it's good programming, I would say. And there's this Meet Cleo who uses read-only access to bank accounts to access spending habits and suggest budgeting techniques. Wonder how popular that is. University of Oxford estimates 1 in 2 workers could lose their jobs. And the tricky part, as this author rightly points out, is yes, they could lose their job to this, but they probably get a different job because there's so much that needs to be done to keep an eye on the robots. For example, a cafe in Tokyo recently unveiled a remotely operated server bot. So they serve the food with the robots, but they are really run by workers with disabilities, which makes a lot of sense, I suppose. It's a little bit like the warfare of the future will be guys in a big room essentially playing video games and blowing up stuff, and the drones are doing all the work, and the guys are 1,000 miles or more from harm's way. So you do get a person involved in the thing. But they were talking about ethical use of data and GDPR. We've talked about that a lot. But Amazon's sexist chatbots, I thought that was interesting. And that took me over to Amazon's sexist chatbots. How do you design a robot that isn't sexist or racist? It's harder than you think. And they make a couple of good points. One is that the people who design them are humans, and so they have biases. One of my friends who was looking for a job told me that now, the job sites will read your resume looking for key disqualifiers and other ways to keep you from being even shown to the employer. Wonderful. Wonderful. And he's, about my age, and he's a little bit concerned that they may, he actually went to a class on how to get around the bots. So there is some real challenges, and you start to say, well, maybe if we can't get rid of the bias, maybe we should look for better or worse bias, which is my approach in life. It's kind of that. So it's generally challenging. We'll go down a bit. Not only is it challenging to write the right code, but it's challenging because if the machines do actually become, in some sense, self-learning, although it's very challenging because, as we showed 2 or 3 days ago, the dependent variable is crucial, and generally the bots can't build their own dependent variable, but have to have a training data set. But they're building training sets. This Affectiva makes software that claims to be able to detect and understand human emotions, and they are actually shipping software to auto companies that can monitor a driver's face and emotions to create a better car experience. So they've analyzed over 6 million faces, which, I thought to myself, over 6 million. That sounds like a lot of faces. But you think about what Facebook has for faces, and it's, billions, just the members alone, much less the pictures they send up. So it's really a small data set, I would say, and they were having challenges about how the human animators judge the faces. We're going to continue on with this, and I have an excellent article to follow up. I'm John Miglosh from the Wisconsin DMA and the International Society for Strategic Marketing. Have a great day.